Hey YouTube, hey Fish Fam, it's Jeremy right here. Today's Sunday, December 10, 2023, and I'm going to do a little bit of a different tank talk. What I'm going to do today is run through each of my tanks. I don't know how many there are set up here right now. I think there are only like six. Those who followed me for years, you'll know that a year ago, hi, kitty. So that's a caster kitty. He's saying hi. He's been very talky since I got home. But running through, I had an aquarium related disaster about a year ago. I ended up giving away almost my entire aquatics hobby. I got some of it back, including this tank. This is now tank A. Um, and I think there are only like six tanks that are currently set up here. So I'm going to run through and talk about each of them. And so, yeah, tank A, 55-gallon, North America, being Central America. Um, Somewhat of a biotope again. There's a lot of guppies. Somewhere down in here, there's one ancestress catfish. There are bladder snails. There are two types of snails in here that aren't at all related to Central America, and those would be Malaysian trumpet snails and ram's horn snails. Fortunately, I mean, you can kind of look at this tank and tell it's thriving all by itself. It has one sponge filter, one kitty cat that sits in front of it yelling, and I don't know, 100 and something gups in there. Um, it's kind of hard to see them all, but it's just absolutely filled with guppies and guppy grass. And I pull out just like a lot of plants from this tank pretty frequently, mostly floaters and guppy grass, but there are two 4-foot shop lamps. These are just like Amazon, whatever kind of brand shop lamps, but they grow the heck out of some plants. Enough so that I'm frequently pulling stuff out. But one of the problems that I have with this tank pretty often is, let me see if I can find a spot. Move back to improve focus. No, we're going to zoom in to improve focus. Um, Down in this area, sometimes I'll notice areas that have a lot of algae growing in the guppy grass. Yeah. So frequently I'm going through and picking out clumps of stuff. Oh, there's a clump in there. It's hard to see, but right behind there. And it's really only visible by a different color of green. But yeah, there's some algae in there that I'll be picking out. There's not enough light gets to the bottom down here. So the plants in the bottom here struggle. They just absolutely struggle. And that's my fault for not clearing out the jungle. But yeah, welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. That's tank A. So I'm going to pause and jump over to tank B, and we'll go through each of the tanks one by one. And welcome to my son's room and tank B. This is the convict tank, or one of the convict tanks. This is like the breeding tank. And there's something of specific interest here to me. There's a fake plant in this tank. And I'll let you find it for yourself if you're having trouble. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, there's a very obviously a fake plant in here. And the reason for that is I needed more hardscape to separate the two adult pairs, breeding pairs in here, because they were just absolutely mindlessly assaulting each other. And I was just like, okay, we need something else in here to break them apart. If you look back a year or so, this tank was lush. It was planted. It had the thing was full of plants that were coming up from the bottom. Convict cichlids have utterly destroyed that, but they have made it kind of interesting. So let's look at some of the interest. They use the cave areas. Oh, it looks like you got some glass scuzz. Definitely some, looks like diatoms on the glass to me. But these fishies have made some interesting areas for spawning, and they protect them fiercely. It's probably time to remove juveniles and let the adults continue to do their thing. But having all of the juveniles in here kind of limits the spawning, so I'm not totally against it. But the lack of a ton of plants in here, and just the fact that these guys are like little underwater excavators, makes it kind of hard to care for aquariums the way I'm used to caring for aquariums, which is like put it on easy mode, stuff a ton of plants in there, and test the water once a week and keep them fed. Well, I have to feed this tank a lot because there are a lot of juvenile convicts in here. And yeah, it's kind of time to start removing them, but I haven't really made any effort toward that. But I also haven't shot a video of this tank in a good little bit because, just to be quite frank, I was kind of ashamed that I put a fake plant in an aquarium. And I thought I was going to do something else about that, but you know what? It's working and keeping them from backing up a little bit. There was a mated pair that hung out over here and a mated pair that hung out over here. I can't tell them apart. They look like fish to me, right? But generally, two of them protect this area, two of them protect this area, and that's just what happens. So it's a 29-gallon single hang-on back. It's got a Higer 24/7 planted plus whatever lamp on it, and it does a pretty good job. But this tank builds phosphates and nitrates, but mostly phosphates. Those are why I end up doing water changes in this tank, and I can smell when it needs it. It's not a foul smell, it's just kind of a lakey smell. And in general, the phosphates are probably an order of magnitude too high in this particular tank. But yeah, I do water changes and pull the water out of here and put it into other tanks because these fish are healthy. They are healthy, happy, good stuff. No diseases or parasites in here. But it's nutrient-rich water, so I put it in other tanks from time to time and start other tanks with water from this tank. Also, let's look at the sponge, the pre-filter sponge. Like, it's time to rinse that out. I'll probably put that into another tank or a tub or something that's starting off, and just let all of that stuff that's on that pre-filter sponge settle down in another system that's maybe just starting out, and it'll be cool. But for now, let's say sayonara to tank B, and we'll move along to tank C. And here we are in my guest bathroom with Tank Charlie, Tank C, and Castor Kitty again, who's going to be talking to us throughout the video, apparently. This is, I believe, a 3-gallon nano. It might be 3.5 gallon. Got this from my friends Gate and Richie, who do live somewhat nearby. Not in the same community, but not too far away. It's here in central Arkansas. So this tank has been jamming in its current location for about a year, I think. And yeah, it's just been hanging out in here since I started doing remodels and stuff. Things came into my guest bathroom. One of the things that came into my guest bathroom is a kitty cat who's going to keep talking to us. And that's just so awesome. But I don't know what he's trying to say. So in here are Endler's live bearers and cardinal tetras, plus quite a few ram's horn snails, Malaysian trumpet snails, etc., etc., Roxy's, cool plants. One of those plants This one's just been struggling, and that's not normal for me to have begonias struggle even in the top of an aquarium. So this, oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I did that. This tank, it's just been jamming along. It's been growing plants well. I've removed a lot lately. Like a lot of plants were removed. Mainly floaters and crypts. So the front area, like especially in here, was just totally full. This dude, you bother me, son. You bother me. What you doing? What you doing? So let's talk about tanks some more. I think that's enough for tank C. Let's go find tank D. Okay, this is tank Delta. It is a 20-gallon tall, unfiltered tank. This was kind of an interesting experiment. I began this tank basically for free. It received dirt and compost and mulch from my backyard, plants that were just here. A lot of them were from my backyard. I actually did recently add something that I normally wouldn't put in a tank. So, aquarium decor. I have a curio cabinet full of other people's aquarium decor. And they're everything from dinosaurs that lift up and, release bubbles and treasure chests to things like that little thing, lighthouses, fake coral, fake plants. But I get them when people give me tanks that they're finished with, and they're like, please take care of my fish. And I do that pretty frequently. So several times a year someone drops aquariums off here and I try to care for them. That particular piece came from something like that. Now, if you know anything about this tank or have followed, there are 3 Dark Knight ram cichlids. They're the same species as blue rams, or what we call German blue rams, which are not from Germany. They're from Central America. But they're these lovely little dwarf cichlids that, not there. There's one, there's 2. Okay. Dwarf cichlids hanging out, chasing each other. They have not done so great since I introduced the black mollies. The mollies are in here because a friend came down to get some plants from me a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks now. And she brought some mollies. And I think otherwise she would have taken them to one of our local fish stores, but I was willing to take them and, trade some plants for some fish, and I'm happy I did. I haven't had black mollies here since maybe like 2019, and they used to live in a tank that was in that location, another 55, but it was my South America tank, and they didn't really, mollies are kind of Central American also. They're found all the way up into the contingent 50 states. There is a Keeley and a sparkling gourami in this tank also. But mollies are just kind of fast, furious, frenetic, boisterous, active fishies. And over the last few days, I lost my only female ram that was in here. Now, 3 males to 1 female was kind of unbalanced, but the tank was pretty healthy. I put fish of unknown health in here, and a few weeks later I lost a ram. Now, there's a saying, correlation does not imply causation. I'll let you think on that one for a moment. But I can tell that I need to move these mollies. In fact, there's another tank that's ready for them, with one exception. It's not filtered, and I think they need to be in a filtered tank. Even though they're in an unfiltered tank now, the tank I was going to move them to is a 10. This is a 20, and I should probably just prep another 20 because they need the space. So that's tank D. It is, as I said, unfiltered, but it's heated. It does have an air stone. Similarly to tank B, it has a Higer 24/7 planted aquarium light, and it rocks along usually a little over 80 degrees, about 82 degrees or so. So this is Delta. Let's move to Echo. And here's tank E. This is a 10-gallon. Let me try to wiggle that out of the way. Is it a 10-gallon? This might be smaller than 10. This might be like a 7. It looks smaller than 10. It is small. I should probably figure that stuff out before I start talking about it, but whatever. This is what I would call a small aquarium, right? Anything under like 20 is kind of still in the small territory. I would even say this is borderline nano. Now, I keep some true nano systems, right? These things, those are nano, but this is an itty bitty aquarium. Like, I think 55, 75, those are still kind of medium-sized aquariums, and it's not until you get over 100 that I think they're either on the large size of medium or they're starting to become larger tanks. This is a little tank. It's 10 gallons or smaller. So what's up with it? I just noticed the lid on the hang-on back was kind of snapped loose. So this has an old school, like you can even see in the reflection there of that tube, Aqueon. Now it's backwards, but see there? Aqueon. Old fluorescent tube, but you know what? They grow some plants pretty well. Above this, now tank C's over there too, like right there. Above this is, there are a couple of shop lamps up in there and a plant light. Let's see if we can, yeah, there it is. They do their glowing down on these guys. So Chinese evergreen, Pilia, Mexican petunia, some people call them Texas petunia. Forgive me, I don't know the Latin name for this plant, but they rock in an aquarium setting when growing emerged. This one I'm gonna say has been in here a month, maybe. This little tank has a small hang-on back filter. All of my hang-on backs, with almost without exception, have a pre-filter sponge. Notice that. I think that's a really important part. The other plants that are growing emergent, the Pilia and the Chinese evergreen here, I got these from a local fish store in West Arkansas, Shade Tree Aquatics, and they were growing underwater there, and I was going, oh, that's weird. I've never seen those underwater. So I bought some, brought them home. They didn't do too great underwater, but they do excellent growing as an emergent plant. Still got it growing submerged in another tank, a low-tech tank, in fact. And that was tank D, the one we just left. But it's just, the Pilia, again, this plant here, just wasn't thriving submerged. So over here, it's doing a lot better. And I'm going to guess they've been here 4 or 5 months. I got them at the same time I got those Dark Knight Rams. And so yeah, shout out to Roger and Regina at Shade Tree Aquatics in Van Buren, Arkansas. Awesome place. Cool people. I didn't tell you what's growing in the tank. This is a guppy tank. So these were the gups that were living in tank B at the time that I stuck the convicts in there. So it's the tank, the 29-gallon tank that was in my son's room in the armoire. These were just the gups that were in there. So it's not like a specific breeding project. This is just the guppies that were in a tank and they got moved out. And now there are baby guppies. And previously, zooming, that guy up there was one of my really, really nice looking males. He's probably 3, yeah, maybe. I think he's over 2 years old. So he's an old man. He's had many babies. He has a split tail now because he's not new. Like, this world is old school to him. He has seen this stuff. His betrothed, she has been around a while too. And actually, just thinking about this tank, it's got some ram's horn in here. Ram's horns, I've mentioned to people before, they're a vector of communicating what is it? Tapeworms. I was trying to remember the Latin name, and I can't think of it right now. Those of you who've been following me for a while, I'm a head injury survivor, so sometimes there's a word like on the tip of my tongue, and I can't say it, so I have to say either the Latin or the Greek or another version of that word. And right now, I can't remember the Latin name for tapeworms. Whatever, but they get carried by these guys, Endoplenorvis, ram's horn snails, and yeah, it's just what it is. So this tank, being that it's kind of small, I have to watch it kind of carefully as far as water quality, but like everything, if you do weekly water tests, things will be fine. And the other deal, stuffed tanks full of plants, they do well that way. Because this tank has, now looking in here, there's just not a lot of stuff growing under the water line. But there is quite a bit of plant mass growing up above the water line. And that counts. Believe it or not, that counts. So this tank does not build nitrates. It does not build phosphates. If anything, it probably needs fertilizer. Ooh, that's a good looking snail. Look at that guy. Zoom in. Boom. Nice healthy one. Very healthy guy. So this was tank E. Zooming out. Let's go find tank F. And welcome to tank Foxtrot. This is I think it's a 40 gallon. It's roughly a cube. And the last time I went through and measured this tank was recently set up. I think it's only been here like 2 or 3 weeks. But like most of the rest of my tanks, it's pool filter sand with some mixed soil beneath that, kind of a heavy, thick substrate, father fish style. But this is a new tank, so it's not very planted. In fact, I haven't really planted it at all. You can see I've got a crypt, zooming, hang on. Back there, a crypt that's just melting away, and that's okay, it'll come back. And then it'll grow well, but that's probably crypt windy green, just as a guess. There's a big old wad of guppy grass and some convicts. They're 2 adult mature convicts that dance around in here. I recently added another filter, and that flow is just a little too high. Pixel's getting kind of warm, so I'm probably going to cut it here, but if you'd like to see some more of this type stuff, give me a like, subscribe, share, comment, and I will definitely do my best to show you lots of aquatics, lots of stuff that's living and thriving. And yeah, these plants are just coming right up out of the top of this aquarium. But cutting there. Love you guys. See you soon.